way. It's a be now, feel good, enjoy life, good at it. Everybody, come on, get up on your feet.
Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Dorit and I'm speaking with you today from Budapest, Hungary. And beside me here is Gabor Harsani, Hungarian Master of Silence, and he's also speaking with you today from Budapest, Hungary. And our guest today is none other than the lovely Annalena Nygård, and she's speaking with us from Oslo, Norway. So good to see you, Annalena.
Thank you. So good to see you. So very good to see you.
Very nice to see you.
And I'm so happy that I could do this.
Well,
very nice to talk to you now.
Yes, and what Annalena means by to do this is she's going to interview us instead of the other way around. So
exactly.
So there we go. So take it away, Annalena.
Okay. I work with couples and families, so I'm very interested in the awakened family. How does the awakening affect the couple relationship and also our children?
Resolving potential conflicts within families, within couples, will actually be a reflection how we can proceed to fix up conflicts between any person or even countries. And so it's a very important question. I would say that to make it easier to understand, I would replace awakening, the word awakening, with activating. I think it would be simpler because the word awakening have been so misused for so long that people have this idea of something mystical, something in the far future, something that's for somebody else but not for me. I'm just a simple person, it's not for me. It's for those people who have special abilities, or special birthplaces, or darker skin. I mean, all these thoughts are out there, which makes a major obstacle for this so-called awakening. And I mean, we can use any word we like. I mean, I can say rusty nail and mean awakening. So let's replace that word with activation. And activation means to me that we as human beings have the ability to activate an ability that's dormant within us, that's already there. We just have to activate it. Now, everyone has that ability, and everyone has the right to activate it. No special skill required, no special birthplace required, no special forgiveness required, no special modification of behavior required. It's important to note also that it's a birthright. So if I'm born to be a prince, to be queen, to be not king.
Don't start.
Okay, if I'm a prince and I was gonna be king, I don't have to deserve it. There is no qualifications. I don't have to excel in anything. I was born a king and therefore I am. And so activating, awakening is a birthright. No, we don't have to modify our behavior. We don't have to be better. We don't have to resolve inner conflicts. We don't have to resolve outer conflicts. So back to the simplicity is an activation of something that's already there within us, and it's already everybody's right. So how does that relate to the question of families and relationships with children, which is such an important question? This activated ability, we're actually able, the whole family, to actually love one another, to actually be there for one another, to actually forgive one another. It's an ability that's not automatic. Uh, Before awakening or before activation, we are trying with our mind to fix our mind and someone else's mind. So it's always a kind of a conflict negotiation. The mind we use currently is a contrast mind, I call it. Call it contrast mind because everything in it exists in comparison to something else. So there's an inherent automatic conflict there.
You said this morning in our conversation, inevitable.
It's inevitable conflict reality. So we must understand that first of all, that the conflict that families might have, it's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. There's no fault of anything except the current human mind works with so much limitation that we're not able to really get along. It's not possible for a short time, yes. Always subject to negotiation, always limiting behaviors, always limiting this and limiting that. The end result of which is that at best, you negotiated something that no one likes. So if there is conflict in the family, it's no one's fault. Activation is an ability of a human being that enables us to actually behave in a way that we imagine that a nice family can be. Perfect understanding, perfect peace, allowing each other to be different. Any kind of positive aspect of a human being or of a relationship you can come up with. You can come up with a few, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a million.
Well, before I was with you, which we are now together for 7 years, and before that, I was alone for 18 years and very reluctant to be in a relationship because I was married before, and my experience has always been that it's two minds competing, consistently competing, two minds, and talk about conflict reality. And I never knew how to overcome that because I have my desires and my control issues, and so does my spouse. And what do? It's never going to be easy. And then when I met you, it became completely different because you weren't affected by your mind anymore when I met you. I still had a little bit. I still was not able to control my mind stream, but you were. And that's the beautiful thing. Even if one person is awake in the relationship, it already makes a huge difference, because I can walk into that relationship, into a space of love, a space of no expectation, a space of no judgment, and to someone who was just being with me and hearing me. And of course, by learning with you and speaking with you, I learned to do much the same. And now it's like a relationship. There's no mind stream fighting another mind stream. There's no we sit and in the morning and have our coffee, and the conversation just unfolds, and it's beautiful. And there's no we tried once to fight, but we couldn't. We wanted to fight so we can see if we can have makeup sex, but it didn't work. Not the makeup sex didn't work, but the fighting didn't work. I think you better take it from here.
Yeah. I mean, it's so the bottom line is that one learning called activation would fix up the whole problem, basically, and would automatically bring with it all the goodies that a person imagine that a relationship can be or a family can be. And so without that activation, usually some kind of a hell going on between people or more. And I would say that could be fixed. That would be fixed immediately. Now, during the practice of this activation, there's a lot of advantages in having a lot of people in one group, because the practice is called bypassing. First of all, I have to be able to bypass my own mind. There's exercises for it. Once I bypass my own mind, then I will have to bypass everyone else's mind in the family. So it would give plenty of opportunity to bypass, so that the consciousness level, the depth of consciousness and the depth of love would be, the intensity would increase all the time. So in a family situation, the availability of practice would be a lot, which is, if everyone is committed to it, would be a hell of an advantage. If no one is committed to it, then of course it's hell. But even if one person is committed to it, for that person to overcome their own mind and everyone else's mind, it's a very quick practice, and I would say that would be the fastest track to awakening.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, you know, how is that for an answer?
Very good. Thank you. Quite often, the couples are different. One is more conscious than the other, maybe, or more activated. I love this word. I love this. Yeah, I think it's so much better description of what it really is, because we have so many thoughts about what awakening is.
Yeah.
So this activation. So I think it's so good that you're saying that. Yes, but it takes one.
That's right.
Actually, because then this one can help the other and the whole family in a way, to bypass everyone's mind.
Yeah.
So what about, I'm so curious about these children involved, because let's say that this couple have reached a good activation, both of them.
Mhm.
And how does this affect the children? I mean, you already said something about it, but what are the fruits for these children to grow up in a family where mommy and daddy have got this activation?
Yes.
Well, for one thing, the fruit will not be contaminated by a mind. Most of the problems that we have in our society is because children grow up misinformed and filled with concepts that are not real, that are not true. They're raised by two other minds, and whatever mental, emotional templates that the parents have, they pass it on to the children. So you can imagine if the parents don't have those issues and are completely, have a clean slate, and they're present with the children, just imagine what that must be like for the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be an ideal family, like a utopia, practically. But why not? Even if one of the parents are awake, activated, it would still work. In a normal society, when we talk about parenting, it's usually some kind of a behavior modification. If he or she says this, you could say this, and should I let her go, come home at 10 o'clock? Do you borrow my car? Do you not borrow my car? There's a behavior modification. So a crazy mind of the parent, a limited crazy mind that we inherited, now is trying to deal with another crazy mind who might have their hormones running.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
congratulations, good luck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who is gonna give? So now there's a power struggle.
Yeah.
As long as you live under my roof, you're gonna behave. So
Mm.
if my crazy limited mind is using force
Mm.
to enforce something, we're not gonna get anywhere. No one is gonna be right. Even if you are gonna be right as a parent, a child is gonna grow up subconsciously hating you in some way,
Mhm.
and so it's got no good end.
Yeah.
Uh, on the other hand, if the parents are able to operate life from this activated higher platform. Higher is not a good word, but it's okay for now. If someone is able to operate from a different platform and do the parenting from there, uh, it's not going to be that much of a behavior modification. It's like leading by example.
Oh,
And uh, everything is happening between the child and the parent would be uh, leading by example, uh, not just as far as behavior, but leading by example as far as communication, uh, listening deeply, lovingly, communicating deeply, lovingly.
yeah.
So any issue that come up would be addressed from a different platform, uh, like, okay, so this is what you did. Uh, I wouldn't do it if I were you. That's not how I would resolve this problem. But you know what? I love you and I'm standing by you, whatever you do in life. I'm here. I love you. And so there will be a major contextual shift immediately in the relationship by having this attitude. And now the conversation will take place in a very loving context. And therefore, the parent would be showing example as to how to behave. So now the child will have an example as to how to behave with other children. Listening skills, non-reaction skills. Let's call them loving skills. Everyone is approached with unconditional love, and then the behavior is decided after that. So it's not like what behavior we should have. It's it's what kind of level we talk from. So we go to such a deep level of love that from that context, all decisions and all conversations will work out. You don't even need to know how. And that is not only an example for family, but it's really an example for everyone in any kind of relationship. But that's where it starts. It starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with our family. And then it will grow out from there. So it's a contextual shift in the relationship rather than some kind of behavior magic.
You know, a couple of years ago, I interviewed a woman. She's a non-dual therapist, and one thing that she said to me really stuck with me. And she said, "There's 7 billion people in the world, and everyone wants to be special." And what came to me was, of course, they want to be special. When they were born, when they were children, nobody was really present with them. Nobody really saw the being in them. And they were raised with the mix of frustration and anger and competitive nature and this contrast reality by a mind, if lucky, one mind. It might be better, but in most cases, two minds. And then there's a teacher's minds. And I really do feel that if children are if we're being with children rather than trying to control them with our minds, then the 7 billion people will feel special, and they won't strive so hard to be special at the cost of killing one another.
Yeah, and the good news is that it's so simple and we don't need to really understand it that much. It's not like I must understand the child's behavior and analyze it. All I have to do is be so loving myself. Stuff will happen automatically, and it's guaranteed to have much better results than any other way.
Exactly.
Did I explain
Because
simple enough?
yes, yes, absolutely. I'm just wondering this, because our children, there are very much in this dualistic world, and they're supposed to be. Or I don't know, maybe that was a statement from me. It's more a question, actually. How do we deal? Because yes, we decide, we can make a decision as an adult in a way to go into a more non-dualistic place, maybe. But what about the children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the children do not need to do that. It's a it's a very common misbelief that, okay, I'm going to go to that higher place, or I'm going to go to that level, but what about the other person, right? And the good news is that only one person needs to do that. The children or your spouse don't need to do that. If I'm able to activate and go to that level of conversation and being, that's already enough. That will already start the ball rolling, kind of thing. And so the child or the spouse does not have to be activated in order for this to work.
Exactly. And I would love to hear your story. How is it for you to live as a conscious couple?
Well, I can say that for me, it's absolutely fantastic because I'm constantly having to practice and reminding myself. It's like having a constant reminder of to go within and to go within and to go within and to be present. It's very easy, especially nowadays. We're so busy. There's so much data that comes at us and so much information. It's very easy to have our attention follow the thought stream, but it's very important to also bring it back inside and to operate from that elevated platform. And having someone like Gabor with me is a fantastic reminder, not because he has to keep telling me or reminding me. He allows me to be as I am. But the thing is, if I'm not present when I'm with him, I don't get him. He lives there, and I want to live where he lives. That's why we're married, so we can live together. But living together is not restricted to an apartment. You know, it's not restricted to a bed. It goes way beyond that. If I'm not present and I'm looking at him as a person with a mind, I don't know him. I don't know who he is. We are so different. His interest and his background is miles away from mine. His taste and things are miles away from mine. But when I'm present, it's not just that I know him. It's almost like I'm looking at and being with myself. It's not almost, it is. But it actually feels like I'm looking at myself. It literally feels that way to me. And of course, when you're present, and somebody is speaking with you from presence, you understand what they're saying on such a deep level. But there's absolutely nothing like it.
Yeah, yeah. Communicating from a non-conflict reality creates non-conflict, and so there is very little friction, if any. There might be a misunderstanding here and there, but very quickly goes back to a non-conflict because there isn't any. So to some people, it might actually look very boring.
Far from it.
You know, we do the same thing as every other couple. We go shopping, we get up, we have coffee, we have a conversation, you know, but there's no drama.
No, it's never boring.
So it's not boring,
No.
but it's not, you know.
Yeah, well, boredom is in the mind. if somebody's bored, it's a sure sign that they're in the mind. And when we're together, being present, we're not in the mind. How can it be boring?
Yeah.
So then I have another question to that. So is it possible for an activated couple to grow apart?
Growing, the whole concept of growing apart implies that we have different interests, and we have different priorities, and therefore we grow apart. And that's could be a normal course of life. I had a very different interest than my ex-wife. Whatever, the love stays, but the interest isn't, so we go in different ways. When there is when both parties are awakened or activated, they're never apart. Like, that concept doesn't exist. I'm allowing her to do whichever way she wants to do. There's no no apart. She would allow me to do whatever. There is no apart. So that concept disappears, actually.
Yeah,
And there might be, we might be on a different location on the planet. Oh yeah, you can just tell me to move in,
okay.
instead of waving. Waving at me, like, okay, what? Okay, so let's say if I worked in Siberia and she worked in Brazil, we still wouldn't be apart. We would be in different locations. So, and I'm not talking hypothetically or philosophically. When there is total freedom in a couple's relationship, there is no apart. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, awakening is unifying. It's not a contrast. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no opposition and there's no separation. It's unifying.
Yeah, it's unifying, but not just when a unifying happens. The unifying is not restricted to each other. The unifying is happening with everyone.
Yeah.
So we're activating something within us that's in everyone. So if I have to be in another part of the world, I'm unified with those people, and she's unified with those people. So the whole idea is that eventually in awakening, the whole world will become one family. I'm not trying to be, how you say, like esoteric here, utopian, but the couple might be in different physical location or might have a different thing in life, but they would never actually be apart. There would be no conflict. Would they grow apart? No. Would they have a different interest or different responsibility on the planet? Yes.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And just to go back to your experience, because you both have children, I've understood. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how are they on the same path, or how? No. So how has your consciousness affected them?
I have 3 kids. One is not at all interested in what I'm doing. However, love remains. Total allowance and fantastic loving conversations, and absolutely no interest. There is 2 of them, which one has a mild interest, and the third one has a large interest, like a bigger interest. And I'm delighted. I love them equally, all 3 of them, and I'm delighted if they are interested. but my love towards them is not conditional upon being interested in what I do. If they are even opposing what I do, I'm okay with it. And what I noticed that the second half of your question was something like, how does it affect them, right? And what I noticed is that when I started integrating things into my new consciousness, the moment I integrated something into a new consciousness, there was like quite a bit of change in them. I've noticed automatically that something shifted in them, and that we're probably able to explain it how we connected genetically. So if we say the sins of the father inherited by the son kind of philosophy, right? Then the opposite is true also. The opposite of sin is, let's say, awakening. It is also inherited by the son.
Yeah.
So it definitely affected them, whether they notice it or not. And
Yeah.
you know, my relationship is wonderful with all three of them, and they have, even though they may have a limited interest in what I do.
Yeah, and my daughter has a different interest, and that's okay too. And we used to be on the same path when I was still on a mental spirituality path. And after I been activated by Gabor, I actually lost a lot of friends at the time who wanted to remain seekers, and I stopped being a seeker because I found my being. There's, as Gabor says, it's now, and it's simple and it's immediate, and that's what happened. And so I no longer had a need to seek anymore. And so a lot of people in my life have changed, and that's okay. That's part of my integration of it. The integration comes after the awakening, and that's the part where you integrate different life situations while having the activation be the context of your life. And so for me, accepting that she's now on a different path and different for me is my integration, and it's fine.
So how does this feel like for you? This, could you explain me a little bit this awakening? For sure, there's a process, but how does it feel like? Oh, I don't know if I'm being clear with my question, but yes, could you just try and explain me a little bit how you find it? Because for sure it's different for each person, but
Yeah, you remember when you were visiting here in Budapest, and we had such a wonderful conversations. You and me felt it at the same time.
yeah.
And so it's not different. Perhaps we describe it differently because we are forced to use words that are in duality. So the description might be different, but the feeling is exactly the same.
That's
And
right.
the description would be is something simple, something feels very loving, but the kind of love you feel is not the opposite of not love. It wouldn't be the opposite of hate. The non-dual love, but even that is not really adequate. There is the love of God, love of universe. They are all good expressions, but again, not adequate. It's very soft, it's very accepting. I think that the best expression I can use to describe the feeling is that, oh, it's nice to be alive. And you know, and it's not this, it's not that. Oh, it's nice to be alive. So it's nice to be alive, and there's the occasional peak of challenge. rather than the opposite, which is,
Yeah.
oh my God, life is a struggle, and occasionally I have a day or two of pleasure. So it reverses.
Yeah.
And so that's the feeling. And
Yeah.
I know that you have experienced it quite a bit also, as far as I know.
For me, it was the, the way I felt it. It was more in how different it felt um, in comparison to everything else I've done ever before. Um, I have been on a path for 40 years, different paths. Studied with different teachers all over the world, and meditated for years. Had spiritual experiences, Kundalini awakening, that awakening, you name it. I was a spiritual junkie. That's why the subtitle of my book is Confessions of a Recovering Spiritual Junkie. So, and then, you know, there was before Gabor and I got together, we met accidentally or not accidentally at a barbecue. And he said to me, we already knew each other, and he said to me, there's nothing wrong with your path, but it's just that my path is not in the mind, and yours is in the mind. And I was furious. I was absolutely furious with him for saying that, because I was reciting poetry and brilliant statements about going beyond the mind. How could I be in the mind and say things that are beyond the mind? Little did I know that the mind doesn't see itself and doesn't know whether it, and not only does it not know if it's in the mind or not in the mind, it cannot possibly get itself out of the mind. It's not the mind that gets itself out of the mind. And most spiritual paths are attempting to do that. So that's what I call the mental spirituality. And so what happened to me when I finally asked Gabor, okay, teach me what you do, teach me what you're about. And he did this very, very simple exercise with me. All of a sudden, I felt, holy shit.
This thing is the families, you know.
Oh, sorry, kids. SHIT. I had no idea, but it was the first time in my life that there was a tangible feeling of what it was like to just be, without the mind's interference, without the mind doing it, without the mind thinking that it could do it. And I was at such a place that was so unmind-like, for lack of better word, that I was able to perceive for the first time that everything that I did before was just like Gabor said, it was mind-based. And it's the first time that I recognized that, because of what awoke within me was not in mind. If it was in mind, I would never be able to have that validation. I don't know if that describes anything.
Yes. And I think quite a few of us spiritual junkies, I'm one of them as well, can feel quite provocated in the beginning. What? Because we feel that, oh, we've gone these steps, and yeah, is it that, can it be that simple?
Yeah.
And as you say, it is.
Yeah.
That's where the gold is.
Yeah. I heard an expression yesterday which amused me. It says that awakening is so simple you don't even have to think.
Exactly. That says it all.
I remember when I met Gabor, he always used to say to me, thinking is totally overrated. Oh no, he used to say it was an inferior activity.
Thinking is an inferior activity.
Yeah, that's what he used to say.
It is, yeah. I've come to think the same, really. It's really overrated, this thinking,
Yeah.
crazy thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a,
Yeah.
in order to learn how to think properly, we of course need to learn how not to think, and that's an important consideration. If somebody really wants to be an accurate thinker, we must learn how not to think.
Hmm.
And that would be on then thinking on a certain subject on a sort of genius level with your focus. So not thinking would bring you huge benefits.
Yeah.
Mm.
Speaking of relationships, imagine if every time a couple got into miscommunication or disagreement, if before responding, the person would not think, would just be, and then after that, from that place, say what you need to say. From that place, even think, and what a difference that would make. They might get
I've tried it out. I've tried it out, and it's been incredible.
Oh, I'm so happy.
That's
Really,
wonderful.
yes, it's been
Yeah.
so good.
Wonderful.
Oh.
This awareness of where am I? Am I in my queen position?
Yes, queen
If
position.
not, don't say anything. Not yet. Not yet.
Yes, exactly.
And then
Exactly.
That's
The
good.
queen
It's
position is
incredible.
it, really.
You really learned a lot. You've come a long way since I've seen you last time. That's wonderful.
oh, it was really so nice to meet you. And yes, we haven't talked really after that, but yeah, it's been really very nice to slowly, because I think I just need to go there slowly, but to find my path more and more.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is that you're already there, so there's no rush.
It's true.
You can go
It doesn't exist anyways.
listen, however you get to the queen position, you're right.
Yeah,
That's it. That's the it. The queen position is it.
exactly. Good. Thank you so incredible much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
most
incredible
welcome.
much.
Take care of
You're
yourself.
you're
Such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
All the best.
And
All the best.
to all the viewers, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for being with us at this time, and stay tuned for more videos to come. Thank you, and God bless.